Thank you so much for joining me today for our One More Chapter book club. I hope you all had lovely long weekends and found some sunshine. I've been really looking forward to this book club, so I'm really happy that the time is finally here. As this evening I'm going to be joined by Andrea Michael, and we'll be discussing her latest brilliant book, The Book of Us. It was such an emotional read, and ultimately a story of the complexity of forgiveness and the friendships that change our lives forever. I shall also be joined by Andy's fantastic editor, Hannah Todd, to help me in what I know is going to be a really, really powerful discussion. So please do say hello to us all in the comments and chat away and ask us lots of questions too. We love hearing from you and discussing all your ideas throughout our book clubs. Please also tag any family or friends that you think would like to join in with us today too. But now, please help me in welcoming Andy and Hannah. Just bring them in. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
All good, thanks. And all our viewers out there, please let us know how you're going as well. So Andy, first of all, where are you coming to us live from? I always like to know this.
I am in Watford.
Watford, very good. Not too far away from us. Well, is Watford and Reading quite close, aren't they? Anna, is that right?
I have no geographical knowledge whatsoever.
No. Sorry. Because Watford north of London.
We're
Reading
west.
Okay,
We're west.
guys, I'm totally wrong. So
Vaguely the centre of the country. You're fine.
Okay, people out there, geography is not my strong suit. But anyway, I have to find out where everyone's coming from and try and imagine our places. But that's not why we're here today. Anyway, we're here to talk about The Book of Us, which is just such a beautiful book, Andy. It was just so emotional and so powerful. I just absolutely loved it. So I'm really excited for this discussion, as I said before. But so kind of first of all, I'd love to ask you what your inspiration for the book was as well.
This one was actually funny because it's one of the few times I really remember the exact moment I had the idea. I was hoovering in my flat.
As you do.
Just
inspiration strikes.
I think originally in my head it was the book starts with a letter, and I think in my head I'd written it that it would be letters the whole way through, but it was just this idea of two people who had fallen apart with this very complicated friendship and a very complicated reason for why it all gone wrong, and trying to get back together, and just how difficult it can be to deal with pride and jealousy and hurt feelings, and sort of how to get to that point. So that was at least the root of it. It changed a lot since then.
Yeah, definitely. And then did you kind of then I guess plot out the book from that point, or you kind of found your characters first, or sort of?
I think it was the characters came along quite quickly. Weirdly enough as well, I was going through I was having a clear out in my room to set up for working from home, and found all these old notebooks, and I actually found a character, Cassidy Jones, from when I was at university writing short stories, and was actually really similar. This kind of, I think she was more of a manic pixie dream girl kind of vibe then. Very similar kind of out there, wild spirited kind of person. So she's clearly been hanging around for a while waiting to be written.
Oh, that's so funny. So did you not remember that you'd written that short story before, and then wow, she was just in the back of your mind, just
waiting for the right time to kind of get her own story, I suppose. So and then just gradually plotted it out when there was space for it, and it was very different to what I've been writing before, so I kind of felt like I needed to gear up to be ready for it.
Definitely. Yeah, so what so very different from what you've been writing before. So you've written other books before, haven't you?
Oh yeah, so I used to write romantic comedies under a slightly different name, which Hannah had also edited for me at one point.
Yes, that brings me to so my next question, like how, Hannah, how did you first start working with Andy? How did this, your brilliant editor-author relationship come together?
Yeah, so we'd kind of briefly worked together when I used to work at Canelo. And then shortly after, I was working for Avon and then One More Chapter. And Hayley, Andy's awesome agent, got in touch and said, I've got something really exciting and I'd love for you to have a read. And I trust Hayley's judgment a lot. I think we've got quite similar tastes, so I was already really excited. Then I read this book and was just floored by it, cried in public, and I just absolutely loved it. It was like, well, that's it then. This is what we've got to do. We've got to get it.
I love that. Yeah, so I really want to go back to as well, what sort of drove you to change that sort of writing style as well, Andy? Was it just because you were struck by the idea, or had you been maybe thinking about more, this sort of powerful page turner, shall we say, for a while?
I think not that I'd gotten sick of writing romance, because who doesn't love a romance, but I think I was just struck by this idea that the relationships that change us and have a real impact on us don't have to be romantic relationships. And that's always been the kind of thing I've been interested in, is how people impact us and how we impact others. So getting to do it through a friendship this time kind of felt like something new, and also to get to be a little bit, not darker, but maybe they can be a little bit less likable in this case. Whereas that's harder to sell if you want them to be romantically involved with someone.
I guess that that real sense realism we could really feel throughout the book, which kind of leads me to one of my questions, which I'm going to bring up on the screen, which I love to do. But I love that everyone's out here is commenting where you all are. You're in such different places. Surrey, south of Scotland, Cheshire, North Wales border, Gravesend, Lancashire. Amazing. I'm not going to try and guess those ones. I already said it. Map's not my strong suit, but a range of places. Really. But anyway, I will bring up but everyone out there, please ask us questions and comment your thoughts on these questions too. So my first question about the book. A central tenet of the Book of Us is female relationships and friendships. What was your drive for exploring these relationships?
I think our friends make us so much of who we are. And I think there's a tendency to see female relationships in like a very one-dimensional way. Either, it's your supportive gal pal and they're always there for you and they're perfect, or it's a female who is somehow competing with you, or you're competing with them, and that's kind of often the only two options, like in fiction sometimes. So I think I kind of just wanted to explore what it meant to impact on someone else just by being yourself, and when you grow up with someone, the two girls are kind of forced into being polar opposites sometimes, even if that's not naturally where they want to fall. And, you kind of sometimes want to grow out of that and be your own person. But when you come back to being with that person, you always fit back in that space again. So,
yeah, and I think that's like you were saying, just to sort of, you see, with Cass and Lol and their friendship, so many different tenets of what a real relationship is, which often is not as explored as often in other, in that many books.
I think something that I really like about this book is the fact that it is messy, and it's not just the glorified side of friendship where we're best friends no matter what. Friendships are a relationship like any other, and it might involve hurt, it might involve support, it might involve all this other stuff. And I think it was really refreshing for me to read a book about friendships that felt real and wasn't just kind of, everything's great all the time. It was, sometimes it's really hard, but they can change your life for the positive, negative. They can just really impact who you are as a person. And I think that's something you don't see as much in fiction, but hopefully we'll see more of.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also what you were saying earlier as well, just about that sort of, of that friend as well that you kind of you grew up with, and that can also in a lot of ways then be like your best selves and your worst self with, and that's a really interesting dynamic too. I mean, I think we can all probably think of a friend that we that we have like that, don't we?
Yeah. I kept sending little snippets of the book to a friend of mine and saying, "It's us, it's just us." And I think when you're reading bits, they just resonate so much with you. You've got such a beautiful writing style that occasionally you just go, "Yeah, no, that's just the way it is." And I kept sending bits to people going, "This is us." And I think it's just such a nice thing to be able to share with someone as well.
Yeah,
I think as well, because it does happen more in teen fiction and YA. They're allowed to make more mistakes because they're teenagers, and humans of all ages make mistakes and kind of want to keep growing and changing. So it was a line to walk, I guess.
I think that's a really good point, and maybe not as there just aren't as many novels necessarily about this sort of specific tenet of even though you're an adult, you're still growing up, you're still changing, and especially in this sort of very particular, with your friends, a female relationship dynamic. Which there are probably more in YA. Anyway, that's great. We've got some really good comments here that I want to bring up as well, which is Trish Hills. I was just going to say, Hannah, that's refreshing to read a more real friendship that isn't all sunshine and roses. And from Tika, I really liked the estrangement between Cass and Lol. Their relationship was really fractious, and I enjoyed how it came full circle.
Yep.
We completely agree. And we've got another great comment from Cheryl. Or best friends that you have to leave behind because something happens to destroy the foundation. It's true. That was a refreshing take on it. Rebuilding or trying to rebuild the relationship. Yeah, I think it's another. I felt that was particular. I really related to that element too, because sometimes it's good to see there could be something, a really difficult situation could happen in a friendship, but then how you can rebuild that in the end over time.
Yeah, and whether it's the right choice, it could. The book very easily could have been that the smart choice for Lol was not to go back there at all. That this friendship was something that was damaging, and sometimes you do have to cut people out of your life, but taking that chance was kind of showed there was still goodness in it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think people often talk about romantic breakups as well, but people rarely talk about friendship breakups. And the fact that can involve all of the same feelings of kind of hurt and regret and guilt and all those horrible feelings. But the fact that obviously there was this bit of goodness that made it worth salvaging, I thought was so lovely. And that kind of pulled you through the whole narrative because you were like, is it going to be enough? Can they get there?
Exactly. Yeah, I was wondering whether it would work out, basically, which is just such a, it just was really different, which I just absolutely loved.
Yeah.
So we've got some great questions here from our viewers. Thank you very much. Michaela asks, have you been inspired for a future story around the lockdown? Maybe couples being stuck in the home together and how they see themselves.
I haven't, just because lockdown is so encompassing that it's kind of, I don't really want to deal with it, but I do think that's so fascinating. And I think there has been a book that's been signed that's kind of to do with that. And I'm sure a lot of people, I did read, I think it was a tweet where someone was saying they were working with their partner and they were like, I didn't realize I was dating a let's come back around guy or whatever.
Exactly. Let's circle back.
That guy. And I just thought that was brilliant, because you have got these different personas at work, and that would be such a fun thing to do. I think I haven't got the energy to do it, but I'm sure someone will do it very well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that quite a few other authors I've talked to have been finding it hard to write, or everyone's just distracted by the lockdown ultimately, even though sometimes we might think in the back of our heads, oh, we've got lots more time, but then it's just we're in a really, really difficult situation and we need to be kind to ourselves.
I think we're so close to it as well that we need a bit of emotional and physical distance from it to be able to just wrap your head around what it's actually going to mean for us all, because I think working that out for a character is going to be incredibly hard when we don't know what it means for us. So
Definitely, yeah. We've got another question here from Lindsay. Which character out of Lol and Cass would you say you're most like, and why? That's a very good question. Also, who would play these characters in movie version? Very good question.
I mean, I'm definitely Lol, like definitely. that's very much clear. I'm not as much of a pushover as she is, but definitely in the terms of people pleasing and kind of just, I think as well, you know, I have some absolutely beautiful, wonderful friends that when we were teenagers, I probably did feel a lot more like Lol than Cass, just because they're so wonderful and they continue to be wonderful. But you know, when you grow up and realize you don't have to be either like them or not like them, and you can just be yourself at that point, which hopefully Lol got to in the end.
I think so.
In terms of movie versions, I'm always terrible at this. I never have a good answer to this question. I think I did briefly think, and also I'm terrible with actors' names, so this is going to work out really well. They're both called Lily, both of the actresses. So
Lily James, that's Lily.
Yes, for Lol, and then the one who was in the Mamma Mia 2 one.
That's Lily James. That's
okay. So then Lily, the one from Love Rosie.
Yes. Oh, yes. She'd be good.
Yes. What's her surname?
Is that Lily Clark? No, I'm thinking.
Anyone there is out there what the surname of Lily is in Love Rosie?
Cole. No.
Lily.
Is that her?
Lindsay, look what you did.
Yeah, you're gonna have to help us out here. Let us know what the answer is. We'll circle around. Around.
Those two.
Yeah.
Did you circle back to that?
Yeah, I did. God, it's in my mind. I'm that guy. No. We've got some other great questions here. Jessica, will there be a sequel with Lol and Veronica? That's a good question.
I'd be very happy to do a short story, kind of seeing where they are, especially when she gets to her teenage years, because I just think that would be so interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, my heart just broke a little bit.
What happens next? Like, yeah, I think you should. Please, can you write that?
That was really nice.
It's like a Christmas tree. It was really
Collins.
Yeah, because Hannah, you said Cole, I think. Because he's Phil Collins' daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. We learned some things, guys. We've got another question here from Michaela, which is why you encouraged to write at school.
Yeah, actually, that was where. So I suppose in a very boring way, this was all I planned to do. I wanted to write. That was all. I did not do anything else. Yeah, in year 6, we'd had like a little creative writing class, like a club, and I sort of did that, and my head teacher showed it all around the staff room and said she thought I could write a book one day. And then that kind of started me on that. That was the plan from then on. So, and partly with all the clearing out, I found all the stories I wrote as a teenager that I still had like written on, handwritten and stuff. So,
for a long time.
It was always the plan. And my form teacher, I think in year 10, was just like, that's not a job. You're going to have to think of something else. And then right when I left school, I was like, you said I couldn't do this, and I'm going to university to do creative writing, and like, this is what I'm doing. And he was like, yeah, it's just that I've been working on a novel for about 4 years. And I really finished it.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Well, at least you just went for it.
Yeah.
And that's not a boring way of doing it. That's a story of somebody who knew what they wanted, went out and got it, and got their dream. Like,
that's a nice
exactly. Followed your dreams. So I'm going to ask another question to go back to the book here. Another discussion question. which is your character is at the heart of your novel, and so many reviews have raved about how deeply they felt entwined in their lives. How did you approach writing these characters? Because I find that really fascinating. Like, did they just come to you, or did you write sort of like character profile, or because they're just so you just feel those characters so much.
Yeah, I didn't do a profile. I think so much of them came out of the dialogue of them just talking to each other a lot of the time. So I think a lot of how I work is just through dialogue and them having chats in my head, like a crazy person. But I think it was sort of for not the first time, but definitely the most intense writing process, in that, I was constantly writing notes on my phone and scribbling things down, and it did just keep popping up. And I think those characters were really, really clear to me in a way that a lot of other ones I've written haven't been, just because I knew exactly, even though I couldn't tell why they were doing things, they weren't doing things that necessarily forwarded the plot, but I could tell you that that's the way they'd react to something. And often I think, me and Hannah had conversations about, there's different things that I had them doing that they were really unlikable in many places. I mean, we pulled it back a bit, like, they were very, very flawed, and it was kind of nice to just let go and do that. Like, I'm glad we definitely pulled it back later, but the first few times around, it was nice to let them be difficult.
Definitely. Well, that's what people. I know I can be difficult. Sometimes it's just real life, isn't it? So,
and I think that's something that really sold the book to me as well. Like, they were real people. They did react badly, or they said nasty things to each other, or whatever, when they were upset, because it's so realistic. And I think often women aren't portrayed like that in fiction unless they are like the villain. And I think there doesn't need to be a good guy and a bad guy in this situation. And, you've got a huge plot twist in there, no spoilers, that changes everything that you realise about them.
Yeah.
And it's just a really refreshing way to see women in fiction as well. Like, they don't have to be nice and polite to each other. They can just say what they're thinking.
Yeah.
I think as well, a lot of it came from, so my particular skill is that in an argument, I will go for the jugular, not on purpose. I will accidentally find the worst possible thing I could have, the most hurtful thing, not on purpose. It just happens. And I feel like that's exactly what these guys are. They just, whenever they're backed into a corner or wherever, they want to say the right thing and they want to make it better, and they accidentally, press on a bruise, or they just because they know each other, they know where each other's weaknesses are, and it's just almost instinctive.
And having that much history with somebody, and like you said, knowing them that well, exactly what buttons to press, even if you're not meaning to, and you're just going, oops, sorry, know that you're awkward about that.
Exactly. I've got another question here from the audience that I'll bring up, which is also going to be my next question, so it all works out. Ian asked, what are you working on now?
So the next book, I realized while I was thinking about this question that actually the themes are kind of similar in terms of knowing someone when you're younger and whether or not that stays the same or not. So it's basically about a couple in their 30s who had a big romance when they were 16, and all this drama happened, and they kind of got together in these really dramatic circumstances and ran away, and off they go to live their life, and married at 22 and super happy and in love. But their life hasn't turned out the way that the wife expected, and as much as she has everything she ever wanted, she never got to grow up on her own. So it's about that relationship where, did you get to grow up separately? Would you have made the same decision later on? And then she also goes off to find a long lost aunt in Scotland and works on a farm with alpacas. So
I love that.
What do you want?
Whenever it gets too sad, I feel like you have to chuck in an alpaca. That seems to be the rule.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. But that sounds amazing, and like another sort of just this like different, about relationships and what yeah, like think, you know, going very deep into a person's inner consciousness. And yeah, like, would you make those choices? Would you not?
And I think something that I found really interesting in the editorial process for this is when we've been talking about it, Andy, we've been saying, like, what's the story we're trying to tell? Is it a story about this woman? Is it a story about her relationship? Is it both? What is the message we're trying to get across? And I think you do relationships so beautifully in character and stuff that I'm just really excited. I think it's going to be brilliant.
Ian has come back to ask, when will it be out?
Good question. We need to change the schedule. That's a good question. We will update you on that, Ian.
It will be, soon, not too far away, because you're in your second round of edits, I believe.
Yeah, editing now, so not long.
Not long, Ian. We've got some more great comments here. Michaela says, I watched Beaches again last weekend, and that was about friendship over lifetime, showing the good and the bad. Definitely. Love that. And Cheryl also says, the fact that both Lol and Cass have moments where they're vulnerable to the Muppets is what made the relationship more realistic. Nobody is perfect. That comment. Got a great question here from Rebecca. She says, hi ladies, Andrea absolutely adored the Book of Us. It was so beautifully written and unapologetic in its telling. I think it's a great description. And I'm not afraid to say it made me cry. Did you get emotional during writing? Which parts did you find hardest to write?
Yeah, no, I definitely had to cry quite a few times. Usually unexpected places. Just when they finally sort of started sussing themselves out a little bit. I think also stuff where there was an image that I felt set it up. So there's a bit when they're in Finland and Cass doesn't really apologize, but she writes it in snow, and things like that, where it's just like them trying to connect. Definitely, obviously, when the big bad thing happens, that I did have a little bit of a cry for her. And I think anything where V has to say goodbye or deal with adult situations. I think, you know, seeing kids grappling with this heartbreaking loss is the hard. I mean, obviously, I'm writing the child. I am the child, but you know, still seeing this little person that's in my head, kind of having a hard time, was really difficult. And the bit with the little temporary tattoos, I think that, which not giving too much away, but. That just popped in. I hadn't planned that. That popped up later, so I was just like, oh, yeah. So,
lovely. I think V is one of my favorite. I mean, there's the three main characters, but V is just. It's obviously about the friendship, but V is such a strong character, and she was the source of most of my tears. I'm not gonna lie. She's just so brilliantly written, and your heart breaks for her because she's just so like earnest and loving, and it's just, oh god, just cried.
No, exactly. Did she come to you very easily as well, like that, you know, character? She just, or writing a child, was that difficult also? Or
yeah, I mean, I do like writing a precocious child. That's definitely and I used to be a creative writing tutor, so I used to teach quite a lot of kids around that age, and yeah, they were so very, like, so many of them were so very sassy and hilarious, and came out with all this kind of really great stuff, but they also were very, you know, delicate and vulnerable and soft. And so I wanted to be able to, because I know, you know, I don't have children, so in terms of writing children appropriately, you kind of do have to sort of see what they actually do, but often so much of what they do is nonsensical and strange. So kind of felt like I could definitely have taken a lot of what she said from kids I'd seen, so I felt like that was okay.
Yeah, definitely. I love it. Sorry,
the one scene as well I've just remembered that made me really cry as well was V meeting Santa.
No,
you don't find out technically in so many words what she said to Santa, but the fact that all the elves press loads of presents into her hands because they're feeling sad for her made me like,
Yeah.
really lovely.
That one, I just felt like that must happen. When kids come and ask for things they can't get, I just felt there must be so many sad people dressed as elves.
Yeah.
It's true. Exactly, yeah. Love it. So now I've got some sort of wider discussion questions. So everyone, please comment your thoughts as well, because we love to hear from you. It's quite a long question. The Book of Us explores lots of really important themes, but particularly central is that of female relationships and friendships, the heart of that being Cass and Lol's. Why does their relationship get under our skin so much? What can we learn? So long that it doesn't fit on the whole screen. What can we learn from their relationship? Basically, which I know we've kind of touched on already a little bit, but just to delve into that a little bit deeper. What is it that gets under our skin? I'll let you go first whilst we wait for some comments, people out there.
Yeah.
After you, Andy, go on.
I was just thinking, I kind of was having a think about this question. I think the fact that Lol has been stuck in stasis since their breakup. Her life hasn't really moved on or changed or anything. So the idea that, and yet Cass, who was a very certain way and had a very set kind of, not path, but didn't compromise and was a very certain type of character, actually made huge changes in her life to sort of work around. So I think there's definitely something about change and growth and being stuck.
I think the fact that when Lol arrives and sees Cass and is so shocked at who she's become, because it doesn't marry up with the idea of this kind of early 20s teen girl that she knew. Yeah. I think her kind of shock that Cass could have grown without her as well, I think it's really evident, because she's like, you're not meant to be somebody different. You're the person I've been telling off in my head for years, not this new person who's different and I don't quite know. Yeah. And I think that idea of not knowing somebody who you feel you know very closely, I think that's quite a nice thing to explore.
Yeah, definitely. I really loved, or like why it got under my skin is, or kind of what we're talking about, just how it reminds you of other, your own relationships and real friendships, and those deep connections that we have. But I think what I really particularly loved about what we'd learn, it's just sort of idea of yes, lots of things can happen, and you can have these really difficult times with your friends, or more than that, but the sort of idea of forgiveness, and even we don't, again, like they go through this whole process of, and then finding that forgiveness in the end, despite not well, I don't want to give this any away, but you know what I mean. I thought that was just so powerful to me.
Yeah, I think the forgiveness part of it as well is the whole way through, Lol feels kind of weak for wanting to forgive her, and she feels almost manipulated, and she keeps falling into it and having a good time, and then she sort of reminds herself that she should be angry when she didn't need to be. She could have just gone on with it. And I think as well, what you're saying about people growing up, we often see it so gradually, even if it's people, sort of acquaintances. You see them on Facebook, and it's the guy who was an anarchist at university now has 3 kids and a mortgage. You see that transition so gradually over the years, whereas when it's someone who you've stuck them in that space and that's it, and then suddenly bam, they're completely different, and you're not different at all, and once again you're still behind.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. I've got a comment here from Cheryl as well. She says, it gets under our skin because betrayal happens, and when it is the person you trust the most, it leaves scars. True. The scene with Lol and Sandy was quite significant. Lol dislikes the fact Cass hasn't spent time regretting and being in pain.
Yeah, but then I think later, when Lol speaks to Sandy and sees that kind of this whole life she's built for herself has been an atonement for what she sees as her having done wrong.
Yeah.
I think that just kind of, then when you find out the twist, the kind of gut punch that you feel then, that you're like, oh, okay, she's built her whole life around atoning for what she believes she's done, and it's just it's good.
Yeah. Okay. I've got another question here. So penultimate question. So anyone out there, if you've got any other burning questions, please let us know. So this question is, since we know from the very beginning of the book that Cass is terminally ill, the book is both an exploration into death and a celebration of life. How did that make you feel? Or I guess, and then also for you, Andy, as well. How did you kind of approach that too? Through that.
Yeah. Well, if you know she's gonna die, pacing a book, and also being, I had to do a lot of research into how much she could have traveled and how that would have worked, and there had to be a lot of sensitivity around that kind of stuff, because a lot of people wouldn't be able to travel in that condition and all that kind of thing. But yeah, it was meant to be a celebration of life, and it's obviously incredibly sad, and I think as well there's always this very careful balance of, you have to think about what you're saying when you have a character die, and who is left behind and what they give them, and there was obviously Me Before You and big conversations around that kind of thing. So in this case, she leaves behind this sort of little gang of people who have been there for her, and now they can be there for her friend. So yeah, it kind of goes back to, she's built this life and it was a good life.
Definitely. And I think she's she knew what was going to happen to her, but still was determined to celebrate life. Which I thought I loved.
Yeah. And I think the moment it really kind of hit with me was when they're in the bar in Spain, because obviously a large part of the book is them ticking off their kind of bucket list items, and when they go to Spain, and Lowell was going to dance with a stranger, and you see her kind of letting loose, I think, for the first time in the book, and she's having so much fun. And I think you see a little bit how Cass has deteriorated and is having to sit down, and she's with V and she's playing a very different role.
Yeah.
And the first time it's maybe Lowell who's out there and excited and the kind of life and soul of the party, and it's Cass who's taking a step back. And I think the fact that this illness has kind of given them that change of role is quite interesting as well.
That's good. Yeah. Just brilliant. We love it. We've got Michaela's asked an extra question, so I'll bring that up, which is a good question. What has been your favourite book you have read, and which author has inspired you?
Oh God, there's so many.
It's a very huge question.
Yeah. I might tie it, because I saw someone else ask, what book did you wish you'd written, and that kind of ties in with this one, because I think everything Holly Bourne is writing at the moment is just mind-blowingly amazing.
Love it.
And so How Do You Like Me Now, I just thought was this, I just thought it was a masterpiece. Like, it was so brilliantly done. So I just want to read everything she's written. I'm saving the next one ready because I don't want to read it while I'm trying to write, in case it reminds me not to do it.
Pretending.
So I'm saving it for just as a treat, because otherwise, if I'm trying to write something, I'll come away and be like, I can't write anything this good. So that was my answer.
But she's doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah. Got another couple of questions here, which is great. From Rebecca. Andy, I hope this is allowed. Well, it's more of a personal question related to your writing. Definitely, all questions allowed here. I really can't compliment you enough on the huge leap from your previous book to this elegantly moving tale. Can I ask what encouraged this? Did you suddenly decide on this change, or did it take a while? I can't wait to read more of your work. Oh, that's lovely.
Yes, Rebecca read a lot of my books, my early books, so it's so nice to kind of see how people have responded to the change, because it was a risk to try and do something I hadn't done before. I think I wanted to go a bit deeper. I wanted to try something new. I wanted to, push some boundaries. I could have carried, I'd kind of run out of love stories to tell, I think, as well, for a bit. I think, and I was kind of I didn't want to start falling into sort of cliches and traps where I didn't feel like the character, I think as well, I was like, I'd met someone, I was super in love, and trying to write like a comparable leading man for a while was kind of difficult. So, but so I think I just kind of wanted to try something else.
Try something new. Yeah, love it. And Cheryl, another great question. Knowing you were writing Cass as a person who is dying, did you try not to sink too much into nostalgia as opposed to facing her reality, and that would be facing the reality of the situation?
Did I try not to? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I probably did sink into nostalgia.
But it's that balance, and that's that's what I guess that's life, isn't it? We all we are nostalgic creatures, aren't we?
As well, I was kind of. I mean, I love nostalgia. I love a flashback. It's my favorite. Also, I was so in love with their relationship at the beginning. Like, I think I was so in love with who they were as uni mates, and sitting in the pub, and her fancying the barman and the barman fancying the other one, and just like this really subtle, in their house with their housemates who wanted to throw parties all the time, and just little details that I kind of wanted to be there to show that there were good times, and that they could, that you could mourn them, you could mourn the memories as well as what was happening now, and that there had to be enough of a difference between what was happening at the time, because it's painful and you do want to disappear into memories sometimes.
Yeah. I think seeing how they met didn't they meet in the club toilets? And I think seeing that, and it's like, oh, you've all met somebody kind of, I don't know, on a night out or whatever, in the girls' toilets, the most supportive place. And I just think that the flashbacks do allow that light relief, but also, like you said, they give you the depth of what was at risk, what they're trying to get back to.
Yeah.
Whilst also facing who they've become, and kind of, I think facing the reality of that and V is really hard if you don't know the context of the backstory and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think you did balance it really well.
Yeah. Cheryl says here, I thought it was well balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I love all your comments today, guys. It's been amazing. So my final question that I always end on to everyone is, finally, what would you say about the book when pressing it into someone else's hands?
This is always the one that's like, I can't even pitch books most of the time, let alone trying to recommend it. But
it's a tricky one.
I think I'd say it's a book with a lot of heart, and it's about real friendships and forgiveness.
Yeah. I love that. That's pithy. That's good. See, you're brilliant at pictures.
Yeah, I always struggle with this one because I feel like with this, I just want to hit somebody with it and just be like, like you need to read it, because it's just, it's one of those books that I need everybody to read so I can talk to them about it, and so that we can go, I'm this person, who are you? That's why I've been really excited about this chat.
Yeah.
And I think this book did hit me like a ton of bricks, and I think, but in a good way. And I think that is probably what I'd say to somebody, like, if you want something that's going to really hit you but make you feel good at the same time.
And I think, I like that. I think, we'll just, it hits you but feel good. There we go. Great summary. Yeah, I think is a book that's just so memorable. And I think that's, something that just really gets to you about friendship, how real that is, and it'll stick with you.
Yeah.
If you want
it's just
that.
beautifully written as well. It's just lovely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Just read this book.
Exactly. Just read it. Cheryl says it's a story about re-finding friendship in an old friend.
Oh, that's good.
I like that.
Cheryl should write taglines.
Yeah, Cheryl, you can start writing for us.
You're doing a good job. Yeah. Yeah. Oh well, amazing. That kind of. Here we go. We've got some more thoughts. Love it. Ian says it needs to be read when you are in a quiet place and you have time to read it in one go. It's very special.
It is special. That's very
Well,
true.
lucky we've got lockdown.
Yes.
Exactly. It's a very, very special read. Yeah, and I think that it is a good. I know that. Well, I mean, there's lots of different books that are really good for lockdown, but I think this is one in particular because it reminds you of, I don't know, this the stakes of friendship, or like how important it is and how it can be difficult sometimes, and you can be in difficult situations, and but how powerful and important those relationships are, no matter what.
Yeah, totally.
Rebecca, this book will make you want to live your life to the fullest, have no regrets, and hold no grudges.
Very
Lovely. Oh, thank you guys. Yeah, some really great comments. Yeah, if you see this later, please do leave your further comments as well about what you thought too. But so that kind of ties up our book club for this evening. But thank you so much for joining me, guys. It was absolutely amazing. And Andy, I just love your book, and it was such a powerful read for me, and I just really needed that. So thank you. And I just can't wait to once Hannah gets through those edits, I'm gonna
No pressure.
No pressure, Hannah.
Come on, Hannah. And then everyone else out there will get it out there ASAP, so we can all read and we can have Andy back again. But it was just such a fantastic discussion. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mel. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks. So I'll just disappear these guys away for now, and then I'll tell you about what's happening next week. But yes, thank you so much, Hannah, and thank you so much, Andy. It was brilliant. Thank you. Bye. Awesome. I'm going to take this away from the screen. And yeah, wow. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. It was such a wonderful and powerful discussion. I hope you enjoyed it. And it was just so fantastic to hear from you all. I love chatting with you guys. So thank you. So I just wanted to quickly flag both our book club for next week, and we are also doing another exciting live segment from One More Chapter. So firstly, in partnership with the RNA, our editorial director, Charlotte Ledger, will be giving a live presentation next Tuesday with her insights into the changing landscape of romance publishing. And she'll be taking lots and lots of questions throughout too. So if you want some top tips on not only romance publishing, but commercial publishing in general, you don't want to miss this. We'll be putting more details on the page tomorrow in the next few days. And secondly, next Thursday, we'll be having a bumper book club where once more we'll be joined by not one, but two authors, the fantastic Debbie Johnson and the brilliant Carmel Harrington. So we'll be discussing Carmel's latest novel, My Pear-Shaped Life, and Debbie's Comfort Food Cafe series. So it's going to be a brilliant week. I can't wait. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you continue to stay safe and well. And bye for now.